Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Could I have roll call, Mr. Duff?
Mayor LaPorte?
Here.
Trustee Connor?
Here.
Trustee Short?
Here.
Trustee Duffy?
Here.
Trustee Poirier?
Here.
Lieutenant Sullivan?
Here.
Here.
Thank you. We have a unique situation tonight. We have 3 sets of minutes. We're going to start with our March 10th minutes. Will there be any corrections or additions? And if not, can I get the approval of these minutes?
So moved.
So moved by Trustee Connor.
Second.
Second, Trustee Short. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Can all do it. Is that an aye, or should that be an abstention on that end?
Before my time.
Yeah. So then we'll have 2 abstentions.
That's right.
And
You're right.
3. Thank you. And before you again, we have these minutes of our March 17th meeting. Would there be any additions or corrections to these minutes? And if not so, could I have a motion to accept them as read?
Make that motion. Second.
Motion carried. Scott Short, Trustee Connor. Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. And 2 abstentions. Now we're on to our April 14th minutes. Everybody's had a chance to review our April 14th minutes. Would there be any corrections or additions to these minutes? And if not, could I have a motion to have them accepted as read?
I so moved. Second.
Motion by Trustee Doopy, second Trustee Poirier. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And 1 abstention. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to open the meeting to any members of the public. Must be the bad weather kept them away this evening. I know, it will almost kept me awake. Okay, we'll move on to the report of the mayor. I was graciously reminded that I probably should mention this on TV, that we are having a free rabies clinic at the Champlain Fire Station on Thursday, May 22nd, 2003, from 6 to 8:30 p.m. I repeat, we're having a free rabies clinic at Champlain Fire Department, Thursday, May 22nd, 2003, from 6 to 8:30 p.m. We have we were having a discussion because we have 3 people that want to carry their vacation days from this year into next year. We have 1 person that has 4.5 days. We have 1 person that has 7 days. And we have 1 person that has 2.25 hours. What is the feeling of the board members?
I think, given the extreme cold this winter, I don't know if that has any reflection on their hours or whatever, but I don't have a problem with them carrying their time over into the second or the next fiscal year budget.
Okay.
I'll second.
You'll second that?
That was a motion, right?
No, well, we're having
That's
discussion
right.
on it right now.
Discussion.
Yeah.
I just wanna express my opinion. I know people might not agree with me, but when you're carrying 2¼ hours over from 1 year, I think that's a little extreme as far as within the next 3 weeks or so, someone should be able to use 2¼ hours.
Exactly, I agree with that.
Whole days, or I guess we can take vacation in half-day increments. I think that's fine, but, you know, to carry 2¼ hours, somehow that's.
I think the paperwork involved doesn't really justify the hours involved. If that employee could have any way of doing 2¼ hours, it would be a major advantage to the village and the paperwork and whatnot.
Trustee Short.
I feel, time spent from year to year should be, if you got 3 hours left over, you should use it before the end of the year. 2 hours, whatever the time may be, use it or lose it.
Okay, so I don't think we have a problem with the 7-day and the 4.5 days, the 4.5 days. But I think what the board is probably saying is 2¼ hours this individual ought to be able to use them before the last day of May.
I think, I'm not sure what the policy is now. If the employees if it's not a policy and they have not been made aware of it, maybe there could be an exception made at this point, but let it be known or make it policy that from now on, let's not be dealing with these minor hours. And like I think Chuck said earlier, we've still got how many more weeks?
Maybe about 3 weeks left, 2.5, 3 weeks.
In the course of the next 3 weeks, not to force anybody into taking time out, but for the sake of 2¼ hours, I don't see where it could be that major of a problem for an employee, I wouldn't think. But as a rule or maybe policy put into force that, geez, you know, this time you should really use it up and let's not drag around minimal hours.
Minimal hours.
Yeah.
Right. So the recommendation of the board on this 2¼ hours is to actually see if this individual would be using this, would like to have him use this up before June 1st.
I think that'd be to our advantage. I mean, not to impose any force on anybody, but just let it be known that the paperwork involved isn't really worth the effort. And if we can use it, that'd be the greatest thing. And if you can't, well, we'll carry it this time. But from here on out, we should address it or let it be known to them that, you know, it's just not feasible. This time, at this day and age, you know, it's not.
It's such a small amount.
Right.
Yeah. So in other words, we're going to give the approval to all of the individuals that asked to have their vacation carried over. But we're going to highly recommend that the individual has 2¼ hours, try and use it between now and our physical June 1.
Yeah.
So I think do we need a roll call vote on this, Ms. Duffin? Just a motion. Could I get a motion to carry these times over to our next year?
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Short, Courier. Second by Trustee Dupuy, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I would like to take this opportunity to tell our viewers that we have had a planning board meeting and we are looking at getting an industry in our industrial park. And the future looks bright for a couple of more industries as things develop. The village board will let our people in the village know what's happening. Thank you for your time. That's the end of my report for this evening. Trustee Connor.
I don't have a lot. We received a note from our area legislator, Celine Buckhead. She's unable to attend the meeting tonight because she's out of town. But she wanted us to relay information in our meeting to the public. And first thing is that the sales tax is holding its own at this point. She says some months are up and down. Overall sales revenue was down from last year. The airport committee is continuing to work hard on the terminal. A community committee has been formed and has already met a few times. A 28,000 square foot terminal is being planned. Bid specs will probably be ready in January, February, with plans to start building in the spring of next year. Continuing to work on a 10-year master plan. This year we are citing the annex to blend in with the rest of the complex. Discussion continues on parking lot improvements. I guess that's probably in the county parking lot in the city of Plattsburgh. And that's a big thing we're working on.
Right.
Tobacco money has come in as projected, and they're going to be using that for county roads. Within the 3 years, all county roads, 360 miles, will have been repaved, which is a nice thing to do. There's a pole barn at the highway department has been completed. The Clinton County site was built with money received from the sale of the garage in Morris. And just Medicaid expenditures, again, it's up considerably in the 2003 budget. So it's from our legislator, Paquette. Just information for the public. That's all I have for right now.
Thank you very much, Trustee Connor. Trustee Short?
The only thing I have, is anybody heard anything new on the proposal of the school closing? I mean, I know that they have a meeting tonight, which I hope to attend after this meeting, if it's time permissible. But just to support the community of not closing that school, I mean, that's all I have to say is.
Well, I myself have called Pat Ayers to find out what our estimated increase in revenue from the increase in our taxes. I asked for the village of Champlain, and I also asked for the town of Champlain. Apparently that isn't ready as of yet. But I had individuals call my house, and one individual told me that Prue's estimate had gone up 32 million. You're hearing a lot of different feedback from individuals on monies anticipated from the state, but what you hear and what actually will be returned will probably be two different things. So without actually having a number in front of you, it's kind of hard to,
Right.
because we heard between 500 and 875,000, $75,000 anticipated for Northeast and Clinton back from the state. Without actually having numbers, you know, with this reassessment, things are going to really change. Is there any hope for our school? I sure hope so. But again, that's all I've heard. And I've asked for information, so it isn't that we haven't inquired.
And to me, it looks like they're keeping a low profile.
Well, I think there's a lot of things happening, and yeah, but we won't go there. But that's where I've gone with it, and asking Pat Ayers, and she spoke with Mrs. Dawson today, that I had asked for that, and I was calling, but apparently the figures aren't as ready as of yet. So that is going to make a difference on the school as well as the village tax for next year. And with our new building construction to be in place this summer, that's going to make a difference as well. There's a lot of things that are positive that are happening, but the time frame may be not soon enough, you know.
That's all I have.
I guess. Thank you, Trustee Short. Trustee Doobie.
Well, I've got just a couple of inquiries here. Just to bring up to date, Bob, did you know that the stop sign by the KC Hall You cannot see it coming down this street. It got bent and it's hid behind the pole.
I don't even pay attention to it.
And we were looking at that Saturday night, and you cannot see that stop sign. So if somebody came down and went through the stop sign, how are you gonna make it stick if you can't see it? So maybe contacting DOT, maybe they can take care of that.
That's us.
Huh?
We replace it.
Yeah.
You do that?
Yeah, we take care of it.
Okay. And the other thing, some of the drop inlets are getting plugged up and the water cannot go through it.
Which particular ones are you
Well,
looking
there's a couple on my street, and I heard that there's another one going around up on the back street over here, Center Street. There's, you know where the ditches were covered over and there's drop inlets?
Yeah, but I'm trying to think of way,
The street over here.
On Spruce,
Yeah.
Pine or Spruce?
I think that one's been cleaned.
That one has been cleaned. Okay, so then there's one down, there's two down my way. One in front of Ralph Solari. It's right on the end of my property line.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the other one on the other side of his lot,
Mm-hmm.
because the water does not flow through it.
They're not dropping it.
Yeah.
Usually that's grass. Old grass.
And the only other thing I want to know, I was looking over your activities report,
Mm-hmm.
and I see nothing in there that says checking the manholes.
No, well, we didn't, that
Yeah.
wasn't something we
Is that
did.
coming up though in the future?
At
Because
some
that's,
point I can make it.
yeah,
make it
that's
up.
PM and it should be done.
You're talking about putting it on the work list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know, that way there you can prevent a problem by checking it out. And that's all I have in my report, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Trustee Duffy. Trustee Porter.
I've got a few things. Still getting used to the procedures and stuff that goes on and trying to understand and help everybody the best way I can. I noticed in our budget for dog control or dog catcher, what I'd like to do, and I'm not sure the procedure, if you put it to a motion, a vote, or whatever, that if we could get a quarterly report from him for that service. From what I understand now, we only receive a bill, and it's just a service bill. But if we can get a report, you know, identifying what was done, if anything, or what events took place.
Didn't you just get a report?
Yeah, he used to, and then we would ask, we haven't asked for a long time, so we would really like him.
Sure.
We'll send him some
Yeah, but I think that could be just done. We can ask for a report, but that's
That
just
should be
services
standard
that we
procedure.
pay.
Yeah,
That's
well,
the
Well,
service we pay
it
for.
should be automatic.
That's what I
Right.
mean. It's something we pay automatically as a
Right.
bill. We should get a receipt, explained, detailed, whatever.
And
Right.
I think one thing, and we discussed it, you talked with me, I think, are we really getting our money's worth? I mean, if you got one dog complaint a quarter or a year, is it worth the money we're paying?
Well, I think we get more than that. I don't know how many don't go through this office, but we got, I don't know. Every now and then we get a call. It's nice to have somebody call. It's
Right.
nice to have them call
If we-
him.
if
If
we
they
can-
can't get him, I call. I've done it for people. He's been very good in that respect.
I've heard good things about them. All I, you know, is if we can get an itemized list or a detailed
Okay.
report,
He does
that'd be
that
great.
now. He'll do it fine.
Just so we can see what's going on.
Yeah.
I noticed, and Bob may even touch on this, that the county provided us with a counter here on Pine Street, and I think he did mention in there, now that I'm thinking about it, that we should probably send a thank you letter for the response and the service that they performed for us, putting a counter up there or whatever.
I think we can have that taken care of.
What was the purpose of the counter?
To find out our traffic flow.
Traffic flow on that road for a cost-benefit analysis.
Because they said it was up 20% from what they'd had.
Oh, no,
originally
that's what
found.
I said.
Oh,
I thought, if I was to guess, I would have thought 400 vehicles a day.
Well, there's 500.
500. So, I mean, you know, and I thought that at 500 I was probably guessing high.
Right. You were actually here alone. Huh?
Yeah, I was
I would
low.
have never guessed that many cars either.
No.
Yeah.
Just want to make a note that the extension and the bags that were down at the sewer plant around that hydrant and stuff, it's all been done. Matter of fact, the valve's been extended, so we're just working the minor stuff out now to get that filled in where it's accessible and the retaining wall and whatnot. Okay, the lawn care, I know we talked a little bit about it here earlier, but I just had made a note, should we be accepting bids, or are we in a position to be able to handle this? I guess, 'cause I know I've heard from prior meetings years
Yeah.
ago that there was, sometimes we subbed it out and whatever, I just,
Oh, I didn't go.
if we're gonna, I guess what I'm saying is if I don't know, and I'm not insinuating it,
Yeah.
but if it is an issue, we better be on it soon. And if it isn't an issue, make sure that our equipment is ready and so on and so forth, that we can handle it.
The equipment should be ready to go, what we have of it. Anything other than that, you know,
Is it
I
something,
didn't go out and get a bunch of quotes. I know I was remiss in that one. I
is
forgot
that
about
something that we normally or should do, or
I got
is this?
one.
We
complete.
received one.
We got
which
one quote
was
right here.
Probably more than what we would wanna pay.
Yeah.
I can't remember in our budget, did we set money aside for mowing?
No.
We didn't, okay, so really, we don't have the money in the budget
So we better probably not look at putting it out for bid,
Yeah.
because obviously we're gonna do
to
it
do
in-house.
ourselves, yeah.
Okay, so
I
that's,
don't like, if we ask bids and then we don't follow through at all, and we end up doing it ourselves, it really, after a
Bad
while,
business.
you just don't get bids.
it's bad business.
Right.
Yes, bad business.
So, like we were discussing earlier, like Trustee Porter said, we may be doing ourselves and the equipment we have to do it, maybe we might wanna look into some type of a gang mower or something like that where we could pull behind, it might make it a little faster, that's all. If we could find something maybe that's,
Is the scope of the project, I mean, I know we're doing both sides of River Street, and it's fairly level now, is that gang mowable? I haven't really.
I don't know if
walked
a
it to
gang
see.
mower would do it,
you don't
but,
think so?
no, it's
I
not
was
like a
curious.
golf course.
Yeah.
Right, well, that's what I mean, I don't know the
But
terrain, and I
I
don't.
wouldn't wanna be looking at something new anyway, if we
Right.
replace something used possibly that.
What kind of time are we looking at? Do you have any
Well,
idea?
we'll have to start mowing depending on weather, of course.
But I guess what I'm saying is if one man was on the tractor for 8 hours a day, would one day accomplish it, 2 days, 3 days?
I think two.
2 days you could.
2 days is.
You could
yeah.
accomplish the mowing, trimming, pretty
Yeah.
much
2 days
2
every.
days a week,
2 days a
Every
week
two-
for the first
every
few
two.
weeks, and then, you know,
depending on the weather.
once you get past the 21st of June, then it starts to, as the,
Slow down.
it
yeah.
slows down a little bit.
I don't see where we have any major things going on where we couldn't tie that person up a couple of days a week anyways.
I think we can.
So at this time, I don't really think we really need to go to bid. But I think we may wanna look for probably a used tractor. Probably get one with a 60-inch cut. You know what I'm saying?
That would be
sort of-
sweet.
That would be nice.
Are you thinking like a compact size with the bigger mower?
Right, you know,
The-
nothing.
The full 60
Yeah,
inch
'cause
cut?
you can buy one with a 60-inch cuts, probably you can get a 22 horse or 24 horse, I think, with a 60-inch cut. And I'm sure that there must be one out there that, you know, we may wanna look at that on the other end, you know what I'm saying? Cause my thing is, if we're gonna put X number of dollars, if we're gonna put thousands of dollars in paying somebody to do our mowing, we might just wanna try and put some of that money into buying ourselves our own 60-inch cut and doing our own mowing. Because every year we would be going back through the same scenario.
Couple of
looking
years
for-
you've paid for it.
You know, we'll end up paying for that.
Right.
So I think if we're gonna do that, I think an option might be to look into seeing what we can find for a decent 22 horse.
Something in a mowable
Mowable-
situation. to
Mowable
do the-
situation that we
so
can
we
use
can
just
cut-
mow.
We'll cut our man hours from the 2 days that we're estimating down to 1 day.
Yeah, you'll be surprised with a 60-inch
Oh, yeah.
cut what you can do.
Yeah.
Is there anything in the works for any type of summer assistance as far as,
I haven't seen a letter at all this year.
yeah,
No, because we haven't either, because I've looked. And I don't even know what they're gonna do.
They
with their
had
summer
problems
program.
last year filling.
Right. Because their summer program, we usually got information well before now.
yeah. I haven't
And
seen
we haven't got any this year.
No.
But the discussion, I think maybe we want to keep it in the back of our minds, probably, on looking for,
Keep an eye out.
keep an eye out for a wider bed
Mhm.
cut, you know.
What
Some
size
5-foot
we have
cut,
now?
6-inch cut.
1 inch?
42, probably?
No, it isn't that much. No, it's more like 36.
Yeah. To see now, if we,
30.
we'd almost,
Small mower.
we'd almost double that on them big things, you know, we could do.
Cause I had a 48-inch up at the border,
Yeah.
and that would do a heck of a lot of
Well, I
cutting.
mean, even a 48-inch. I mean, you know, that's what I'm saying.
Something up in that
Something,
capacity.
not any smaller than 4 foot.
It has to have the power to turn it
Yeah.
and do a proper job.
Yeah. Well, that's why I say you're not gonna get one, you're gonna have to be better than 20 horse,
I
22
think
horse.
this is like
23
14 or
years.
something out here
Right.
in that area.
But I think in the back of our minds, we ought to just think of that, keep our eyes open. Okay.
Just a question, the boiler in the back here that heats the office area,
Mhm.
has that been serviced here just lately?
It gets serviced every year, and sometimes,
Well, I
Few
noticed it
minutes.
skipping here a while
You-
ago when I was here. Did you notice that?
no, but see, that's something you,
But there was
You
a skip to it, and I
tweaked it.
didn't know if, it just started and I didn't hear it do it, so I just figured, I didn't know if someone had been in to check it or,
no, there's nothing been done
When-
lately. It's usually done once a year
In
at
the
the very
fall?
least, in the fall of the
fall
year.
of the year, okay.
Same thing with all the heaters, there's 3
Boiler
of them
PM,
out there.
that's done through our fuel dealer.
Yes, it is.
It was like a delayed ignition, and it happened several times while I was here, but, the van, the red van that they
Mhm.
use for service, there's a noise coming from underneath it, and I don't,
I think it's a carrier burn.
that's what I thought too, but that's probably,
Just need to lay it up, time it up to do it.
or have somebody just take a look and see that we're not wearing something else out with it, or, okay, I happened to notice it when I was going by the other day, and,
You mentioned that.
I didn't take time to type this, so I'm, you know, trying to read my own writing.
That's tough sometimes.
Yeah.
Gonna open up that bottle yet.
There's an equipment trailer in the back. Is that something, Bob, that we use or could use or could
We could
keep
use
on
this, but
standby, or is this something that,
probably should be, at this point, sold. We can't load the tractor on with the little tractor, it's
too narrow?
too narrow.
So it's kind of served its purpose. and
Yeah.
it's- So maybe we could think about putting that on the same list for bid when we do that list
Yeah,
for the other stuff?
That's very simple.
We'll just include that, is it, the board feel all right with that?
Right. Yeah,
We're not using it.
anything that we don't use should go up for bid.
Right. It
Yeah.
looks like it's been sitting for a while, but I didn't know
It has
if it
been,
yeah.
had a purpose.
No,
You know,
it
for
had a
whatever.
purpose years ago, and I did put the
Side
trench
zone.
box in it.
Oh, I see.
But, we've been not using it very often
Fortunate enough to get it, we'll get by without it.
without it. I can load that in the back of a truck just as easily as I can.
Right. Also, I just wanted to mention, I read a letter, and I don't have it in front of me, that Janice wrote, and I'm trying to read my writing here again. It says, thank Janice for the excellent response letter to Daniel Stewart, Mayor of Plattsburgh, in regards to the Lake Champlain stamp and his efforts. And also, she sent a letter to Tom Powers in support of the New York State Veterans Cemetery.
Right, yeah.
I don't know if you guys seen that, but I
Yeah.
thought it was a very nice letter,
Right.
and it was very detailed. It had a
Right.
lot of good information in there.
I think we've done that at our last board meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got both those letters, so it's
Okay. And, yeah. Oh, and I got from talking with Bob and Larry, the hydrant flushing was a good success. I guess everything went by the procedure that they have in place.
Yeah.
Worked very well, and the businesses here in the village also acknowledged that they had excellent results in the procedure that was done, and the events that you.
You did your.
Yeah.
Right, exactly, yeah. So I guess there was a little question on timing and holidays and starting this procedure, but I guess it was it was a very good judgment by the board to let the procedure go.
Well, we worked
in
on
process.
trying to get that so it was beneficial to everybody, and
Yeah,
it took us a little while, but I think we've got it pretty well mastered now.
yeah. And also, I've got a letter here that I put in everybody's box. I should read it for the record, just so the people can know what we're talking about. It says, while researching the possibility of a hydro generation facility at our dam, I ran into some difficulties trying to figure out how to engage an engineer or someone with expertise in steering me in a proper direction. We want to find out if it's possible, if this is a practical idea with the data we have on hand, and then proceed to find out what licensing involves, as well as cost. The last of all, what will be the cost of constructing a generation facility on the property that the village now owns? There's a need for procedure to be put in place for funds made available to permit me to move ahead. Perhaps a budget can be put in place with funding, not to exceed a limit or something. The last board meeting we had, I guess we talked about it, and I grabbed the bull by the horns, and I kind of slowed right down on keeping things on the up and up. So I guess I'd like to review this at some time. The limits of purchase policy here too, the procedures that are required to proceed with any given project. With a meeting once a month, something other than always calling something an emergency or a breakdown of quantities to a smaller price unit. This policy needs to be addressed. This is not the way I operate my business, nor could I tolerate such constraints. It becomes quite counterproductive and slows down all operations while waiting for approvals. I guess, wrap it up in a nutshell, not being familiar with the policy and procedure. I'm sure it's there, and it's a good procedure, but in the one hand of the hydro generation plant, we need to get, so I'm not out of bounds. I guess there's ways I can do it by putting down an hourly rate to accommodate the $50 thing, but rather than do all this, I just figured I'd be right up front and say, geez, we need, if we want to do something with this, which I do, and from the last meeting, from what I understand, everybody's kind of interested. I'm not looking to spend a pile of money, but I need an engineer's outlook to see if it's worth going forward with this. In order to do that, we need to speak with one. In order to speak with one, who knows? It's one of those situations that. So I guess what I'm saying is to keep everybody up to speed or up to date on what's going on. At any given time, you're more than welcome to ask me, and any information I get, I will be more than happy to put it in the mailboxes, as well as make a report in the next board meeting to keep the public informed as well. But in the 30-day time span, it's really hard for me to keep the ball rolling. Once you get it pushed and moving, when it stops, you got to start all over again. So I guess that's where I'm coming from with that.
I like your statement. I like you want, I wouldn't run my business because it would tolerate such constraints. Well, you're not working with taxpayers' dollar.
Well, I guess that second paragraph has to do with the normal procedure that we do here every day.
Because I think what happens is, because I've looked at some of this policy in the past too, and being even in the fire department, when we got an allocated budget, we had a certain guidelines that we had to use with it, because it's everybody's money. It's not just,
Yep.
you know, you're an individual. If you go out to somebody and you say, okay, I'm gonna do this plumbing job for you, and I'm gonna estimate the job at $500, which is fine, you can do that. We have a hard time just taking that money that's all these people give to us. We have certain restraints that we have to use to keep that money.
Right.
And a lot of it, I can see where you're saying is, yeah, we need to have money to work with. Now, the only way that I think that maybe we could even do anything would be
Well,
to set
just
dollars
look in and see-
aside.
Well, there's, see if there's a grant for it.
There is,
Well-
it's already been done.
Yeah.
Anything that costs no money at all, I've done.
Yeah,
I've ran up into a roadblock, and that's okay. I'm not arguing the procedure.
yeah.
All I'm saying to the board is that if we want to move forward with this, we need to put a budget in place for that. The purchasing procedure, I think, maybe I could have worded it a little better, is a separate issue. And I guess I'm pointing at Bob at this point. When I ran into this and it was explained to me by Janice and Chuck and we all talked, I said, okay. So then I turned to Bob and I said, well, how are you doing this? You are not doing this by procedure. So Bob explains to me, well, in order to do this, it is by procedure, by taking a 55-gallon drum of oil and I divided out the cost by the gallon. And I said, okay, so that brings under the $50, so it's okay. He says, absolutely. So then I ran across a few scenarios with Janice, and I'm saying, okay, are we really that foolish, or should we kind of look at this as educated human beings and saying, at some point, I'm not saying tonight, at some point say, okay, if we have a superintendent, whether it be Bob, whether it be anybody in his place, or Rouse's Point, Town of Champlain, the superintendent, on a day-to-day basis, part of his job is spending money.
Oh,
And
definitely.
by putting a person in that position, okay, you need to make a decision to spend money, but do the math every time. I'm not saying don't put a cap on it, absolutely. I mean,
Right.
you know, because you always have problems, but the $50 purchase thing in certain areas, I'm not just saying open it up across the board.
Right.
I'm saying Bob's position, we should probably look into that, and at a night we have more time or something like this. So I guess to help you out, I didn't really word it correct. I'm breaking the two apart. I'm
Right.
not saying any trustee should just come in and come and spend money. I don't mean that.
We don't have that right.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and I agree with that.
Right, we don't.
I guess what I'm saying is with this hydro generation, and like Trustee Short said earlier, we should look into I did. And not only myself, I've been conversing with Bob, and he did some legwork, and I came up with an engineer that works with the Village of Rouse's Point a little bit. He came up with some other good information through the internet or connections of his. So we've gotten to this point with the information that we have that's really old news to bring us up to current events. We need to make the next step. And in order to do that, I don't want to walk into someone and say, okay, give me 3 estimates. And I just want a parameter to see where we're going. And then we can,
Well, I think from what I'm getting here, I think that probably you're looking to set up an account with money
Line item.
yeah,
to draw from.
right. In the event that we need to. You know, I mean, obviously, we're gonna need something for, I'm gonna try and get a hold of an engineer, a reputable one, say, geez, you know, you wanna come out and take a look as a visit. And if it works, fine. If it doesn't, I don't wanna be caught paying him myself, turning in a slip and saying, whoa, we're all out of bounds. I don't
Right.
wanna do that.
I think where we gotta start is, we gotta make a decision. Do we wanna go that route?
That's
Yes.
right. That's
First
right.
of all, if we do, set a line item up for this purpose, and, you know, if we can take a little money from our general fund, or not general fund, but fund balance, to put
Yeah.
in there. I'm not saying, you know, you gotta set a limit.
But
This is what we're gonna work with.
we have to understand right now that if this is something that we want to look into, I'm not saying, I don't even know if this is gonna work. I hope it does, and I hope this thing turns into a big cherry pie.
Right.
But we don't know that. I don't have the capability of knowing that. We need to get someone. So by doing this, don't think that whatever we set in place is gonna be in it. If he comes in and says, this is fact, I'm gonna come back to you and say, listen, this is fact. If we can produce 10 grand, or I don't know, I'm just throwing this on the table just
Right.
for conversation, we need to say, are we doing this or not? And if the return on investment is there, we gotta be ready to do this. I mean, obviously, we can hold and plan for a year, 5 years,
Right.
depending on the scope of the project. But at the same time, let's not put into place, okay, you got 5,000 to work with, and when that's gone, you're done, and we never do any more with it. If it's a go, then we should go.
Right.
If it isn't, so I guess, let's not make a decision on whether we wanna do this or not, and get halfway and stop. If we get we will stop if it's not worth
Well,
it.
at a certain
You
point,
know,
you gotta know
right.
whether it's gonna be cost effective.
Right.
That's what I need to find out.
And you can't really go any farther than, you know, you go that far, if it's not cost effective, you're gonna drop it.
That's right,
But you need to get to that point to make that decision.
that's right. And just so I'm clear on this, it won't be my decision, just so you know. I'll
Right.
come to you and say, listen,
Well, I
this is
think,
what
I
we've
think Bob
got.
should be probably heading that up, not, because that's kind of what his job is, as far as,
We've
I'm
been
not saying you
working
can't work together,
We've been
or I'd
working
work with you
together.
too, but just saying, you understand what I'm saying? I don't know if I probably
I'm
put
not
it.
sure, but
Well, this hasn't been the first time that this has been brought up.
no doubt. It's a big project.
The thing of it is, it was never no money involved before.
Right, that's right.
Now we're to the step where, if we're gonna go any farther, we gotta put some dollars in it.
Yeah.
Because there's been a lot of,
To either complete it or end it, we know where we're at. I mean,
well, I think we need to put money in it to find out if it's feasible.
right.
But then we're gonna make that decision to find out.
That's what
If
I mean.
it's gonna be too much for us, then we'll have to stop.
Exactly, that's my point.
My thing is, what is our fund balance? With the end of the year closing, this is where we're gonna have our problem now.
Right.
You know, would probably be a better decision to do this in June,
The new year.
the new year,
Right.
unless Mrs. Dawson says she has a pretty good close on hand on where we are.
Right, yeah.
Now, would there be anything for us to put, say, $5,000 or $10,000 in this?
If it helps anyway, I think 5 would be, I appreciate the 10. I think we can get enough information with less than that. 5's a good cushion in case. I think that's plenty.
You know,
I
we
just-
can set up an account
and
for
Bob,
that.
you're more familiar with this than I am. You've done a lot of work on this. Do you think 5 would
think
get us to know if we're going forward it or we're gonna put it to bed?
I think you can. I think you can do it with that amount of money.
To at least find out where we're at.
That's my guess.
So, you
I
know,
guess-
yeah, and I know where you're going, and I know what you're saying, because this is something that we just can't keep holding back.
It's
Either we're
always
gonna
been
do it.
clustered for years.
Right.
Do we do it or don't we? Nobody knows. Nobody has the answer.
So I'm saying, in our fund balance, could we take $5,000 out of our fund balance and put it there?
I don't have any definite figures for your end, but I cannot believe there would be $5,000 there
They need to.
to put, plus, you know, our other percentage that
Right.
we need to keep. So what we would need to do is make a motion to transfer 5,000 from the fund balance and establish an account for hydro, but that would be as of June 1st, which is fine anyway,
That's
because
fine.
nothing is gonna be paid out of this year anyway.
Right.
We'll work.
Does that sound feasible to the board members? I think it does. So could we get a motion to have that done?
Make that motion.
Motion by trustee Short,
I'll second it.
second by trustee Doopy, to take $5,000 out of our fund balance and to put in a hydro, and put it into a hydro account. All in favor? Aye. Motion carried. So initially, around the 1st of June, that money will be there, and, I mean, if you get a contractor to come up and blah, 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 and do what
That
you
was
need
my
to.
next question. If Bob and I work on this and we find somebody that can show up, as long as he doesn't have to be paid by June 1st, we're set.
Right.
Is that correct?
Well, you wouldn't be able to be paid
Nobody
before
would
the
be paid
first,
until the meeting anyway.
you have to pay him at the meeting.
Okay,
That's
that's
the payment of the
fine.
meeting.
So that's fine.
So we pay them on the second week in June.
I'm not looking to jump on this tomorrow, obviously.
Right.
I've got other issues, but just so I know where I'm at and we can.
So in other
between
words,
Bob and I, we
what's
can-
gonna
I saw
happen
you
is,
reach your lunch when you came in.
this hydro account will be in place for this inquiry the 1st of June. Okay?
Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome.
That's just about it for my report. I hope it was enough.
I'm gonna start to say timeless for you.
I'm learning that none of us are
I'm
gonna talk,
sorry.
okay? That's okay, we're just
I'm
learning.
not saying a word right now.
Yeah. A month's a long time, a lot of stuff comes up in a month.
Yes, it does. Okay. Report of our clerk treasurer.
I have 2 items this evening. One is the detailed expenditures and revenues for the month of April 30th, 2003 for the general water and sewer.
So we have one more month to go on this year's.
Yep. Have any questions? Give me a call. The other item I have is just that we'll need a motion to transfer the funds to the accounts in need, which I copied you all with.
Right.
Losing my voice.
So I'll make a motion that we transfer from and to the accounts set forth in the document presented to us by our treasurer, Carol Stossel.
Second.
And a second to that? So, motion trustee Garner, second trustee Short. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Carried. Thank you.
And that's all I have this evening.
Thank you. Superintendent, Mr. Sullivan.
Well, I don't think I have to speak much, so.
Thank you.
You have my written report, and I gave you a spring work list, which
Right.
we're adding on to.
As of this evening, we have stop
This
sign, we
evening?
have some down
Yeah.
inlets. Yeah.
So,
On those dropped inlets, just, I think you were gonna go around and do them all anyway,
yeah,
It's, yeah,
for discussion before, but
right.
I think if there's some that are definitely blocking up, they have to be taken care of as soon as possible.
Right.
the one thing that I would ask people, that when they do, a lot of times what happens is they get a lot of grass on them, and grass kind of hangs together.
Right.
Now, obviously, we can't go out after everybody mows their lawn each and every time they mow it. So they just be a little cautious, rake it off or do something.
Right. So keep their down inlets clean of debris.
Yeah, we can go around once or twice a year, that's not a big thing.
But I think in a lot of them, there's stuff actually in dropped
Sometimes
inlets.
it's
They have to
inside, yeah.
Clean them out.
And that'll get done. I just can't give you an exact date. The other thing that I wanna bring up is, somebody evidently had a little gripe with me and took it out on Donna on the telephone. And I don't think people should do that if they are upset with me not sweeping the street at a given moment or doing something like that they shouldn't be taking it out on the secretary. That's wrong.
I agree with you 100%. So if there's anybody that's out there that does have a complaint for any one of the individuals, they should actually speak to the individual.
And if for some reason they can't reach him, I'm available most all the time. I have no problem with listening to whatever complaint they have, and I'll bring it to the board or the person in charge the best I can for you, whoever you may be.
Right, so I want to say at this time, please be very, treat secretaries here with respect. Like I say, if you do have an issue, and I'm sure you must have an issue, please at least bring it to somebody that could probably work on this issue. Thank you.
I don't think I have anything else. Do you have anything for me? Do you have any questions on my written report?
I would like to take this time to thank the crew for doing a fantastic job on Elm Street. I wish that whoever breaks the stuff and drives on the new seed would try not to. We're trying to make the street very appealing, and it's not constructive to undo what our village crew has done. I noticed that, and it would look really nice down through there, but
Well, that'll get evened out.
yeah.
Do you want some discussion on the storm drain for Elm Street at this point, or you just
The
The project,
replacing a storm drain?
it's all done.
Oh, it says firm up boards desires.
Oh, that was, okay, on that,
That's the other stretch.
that's for the other stretch.
Right.
Right,
That would be for the stretch up by the Kimpex building.
right.
And there's obviously some difficulties up there as well. And what you have here, you know, in my work list, is quite often my thoughts too, is I'm writing things down as I think of them, and how I think
Well,
of them.
I think we haven't put a lot of effort into Elm Street as far as,
We put in some storm drains.
yeah, but
It's
not in,
piecemeal.
yeah.
Yeah,
If
absolutely.
if needed to go from one point A to point B, to get it so it's working properly, and I
Mhm.
know there are problems, there always been problems there, maybe this is the year we should look into doing that stretch.
All right.
Because right now, we don't have a lot of big projects so far that we've decided to do, that I know
Well,
of.
the stretch that they just did, there was an issue where it wouldn't make it from one
Yeah,
drop to the next.
Right.
That was a big
and I think
plus
you
there.
might find that situation in the upper part too, correct?
Yes, there's a very good possibility that's what we're gonna find.
But you don't know until you start digging it up.
That's right.
Now, Bob, I tried noticing today, I went by there several times and just didn't have a chance to get out and look. But the upper one, DI,
Has a tip to it.
yeah, it
Yeah.
looks a little high for the direction of flow. It's almost like it should have been the opposite direction,
Well,
but
I don't know why that ended up that way, to be honest with you.
I know they did a lot of work there and from one end to the other, and I didn't, maybe like you said, there's an issue there of a culvert too high inside, or I don't know, but it seemed
It's
that way.
tipped.
I didn't get out to, I see the water going, but
They may end up having to pull the top off.
just
Chip
bring
some
one
of it.
side down, you
Right.
know, just to keep it uniform. From there down is perfect pitch and everything,
Yeah.
you can see the water.
And I noticed that there was no puddle down, not as pronounced the puddle down towards the bottom of Prospect. There always has been one there. So that's a plus.
So, I mean, if you're thinking of maybe that's something you might want to do, maybe we can get some kind of estimate, cost estimate
Sure.
for that
Sure.
stretch from Kimpex to, say, the fire station.
Well, we can check it out first, right? I mean, can you actually get a visual, is that culvert large enough? If you sewer jetted it, cleaned it, is that or is it too far to get a good, you know? if
Could
you
be
got-
to just stick your head down there and have a look-see.
Yep.
I've never tried it.
I'm just wondering,
I'm
I mean,
not saying you can't.
it's a fairly straight situation, I don't know,
I
with
tend
good
to-
light or something, I don't know.
I tend to think, well, that's a good,
If it was good and
as
clean.
good a shot as
It
anything,
was
yeah.
good and clean,
And then run it from both directions.
you know.
What's really cluing me in that we have a problem is that we've got a big sinkhole
Somewhere's along that line.
right in the middle of the Kimpex building.
Yeah, I've seen that,
Yeah,
And there's one
You-
farther up with the cones sinking in the ground.
that's the one I'm
Okay.
really interested
And
in.
there's one right at the entrance of the driveway, there's something collapsing, I shouldn't say, I haven't seen it lately.
This is the upper end.
Now we're the tractor
Across from
trailer
Kenny
traffic.
LaPlante's, right across from Kenny LaPlante's, the entrance to Kimpex.
Well, we did that a couple of years ago now. I don't know if that's still bothering. We put new pipe across there and everything.
You put a grate in there too to catch the water.
Mhm. I don't know if that's still, I haven't noticed that was a big bother. And it also,
It may not be.
it was collapsed further down, where it actually takes a right angle and goes across through the American Legion parking
Yes,
lot.
that
And
was
we
new a few
we
years back.
replaced all that.
Yeah. So there's sections that are
That's-
pretty much up to speed.
They're up to date, yeah. And that, one thing causes a problem someplace else, it pushes a problem back someplace else, and it keeps working its way
Well,
back.
I was saying, maybe we can do what needs to be done in that one area, because it's a good long stretch, and maybe, like I said, done pieces. If we can finish
The other pieces,
the other pieces where we know what we have is gonna be in good shape, and we may resolve some other issues at the same time. You know, with
I'm
water
thinking that we're
going
gonna have
places it shouldn't.
something, we're gonna have a hole through something there, I just don't, I have a suspicion. Well, I'll certainly price that out, in fact, I think I have got something somewhere.
You might have one.
Yeah.
Anything else for Superintendent Sullivan? Okay, then we move on to correspondence.
Item 1 is correspondence regarding the annual election from the Champlain Fire and EMS. Building officers. Item 2 is correspondence from Teresa Ben regarding equality of the water bill, which must be addressed.
Yes, I think this needs to be addressed.
Our intention on that particular one, or my intention is that we're gonna go there, just before we read meters again. Hers will be one that gets read and then it'll get changed. Change it in the middle of a billing cycle and then you're all confused. Let's make it one billing cycle. We'll start out nice, clean, fresh.
Okay.
She had a spike in her water bill, is that what it is?
She did, there was a water leak there at one point.
And had the spike straightened out after that? The last read or?
There evidently is a lot of confusion with it.
Okay.
And I don't know what the confusion is, so I think the easiest way for us to deal with it is to start out with zeros and go from
Right.
there.
I believe so too. She's a woman alone, I can't see what her,
Yeah.
these figures.
Gallons are coming out.
Right, I can't see what this is something really.
Now, as far as the inner workings of a water meter, the one thing that a water meter will do is wear out and not read as much water as is actually used.
Right.
It does not go the other way. It's a mutating disc. Some water is going to slip by.
It's mechanical, there's no way. If it fails, it's zero.
Yeah.
If it fails and goes higher.
It can't go higher.
It don't go higher, right.
Well,
But that's the thing in place, we're gonna be putting another meter in?
I'm just going to put the top on.
Okay.
New top, new reader.
And
just
did you discuss this with her?
No.
Maybe you might want to just.
Right.
I will. We'll go up there and see one day.
Right.
We're gonna turn the meter back, we're gonna start a new reading,
Yep.
so we still need to give her credit for this, but she's overpaid.
Yeah. That's whatever you decide to do on that. That's not my.
How,
Yeah. So what I'm saying is with
You have a
this,
better handle on that part. Now, when it comes to the accounting, I don't do that.
do we as a board need to do something with these astronomical numbers is what I'm getting at?
You'll need to make a motion to give her a credit, for 10,030 gallons.
Okay, that's what I see right there, 10,030 gallons more. So in other words, we need to make the motion to give her a credit on her next bill or so that.
Has the water usage stabilized at this point, or are we still looking at astronomical readings?
No, they're okay now.
They're back to a normal situation, so was a spike due to, Bobby, you were saying a water leak, was that confirmed, or is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the water did leak out, so we're waiving the sewer charge, is that what we're doing, or are we just waiving it all?
We're
What
waiving
do
the
we-
water charge.
well, I don't understand the 10,030, we're waiving that many gallons for what reason, I guess I'm not sure.
She used 10,970 gallons, she paid for 21,000.
Yeah. She paid for her actual usage
It's approximately 10,000 gallons out of
out of
whack.
whack.
That doesn't balance.
Right.
And we
that's-
know she had a leak.
That was because of the inside-outside meters, is that?
I don't know.
I don't understand
Well,
that.
what happened was that
So-
we go,
No, you talk to us.
well, it's a meter that they use a gun on.
Yeah.
And when they went in June, the reading was an actual reading of like 24,000 gallons. And it seemed high, I had Larry go recheck it, and everything seemed to be working, the meter was turning. Well, the next two readings, we had to estimate it, I believe because the meter with the ones with the guns, Bob, right, sometimes they don't turn, they're like in between a cycle,
That's what I keep hearing, that they
And
get
they-
between a chip.
right, and then they
But I
can't
don't
get a
know that.
reading off it.
I think it's because they're not working the gun properly.
Mhm.
That's neither here nor there.
Well,
We'll figure it
Yeah.
out.
So it's because they're estimated, that's what we're
no,
getting.
right,
Okay,
so the
all right.
last two were estimated,
Okay.
and then that's why. She actually read the meter a couple of weeks ago and got a reading, and that's how we came up with the figure, actual what was used and what was estimated.
So she paid for she paid for more than she used.
Right.
And all we're doing is she's asking us to have the credit on those 10,030 gallons.
Need a motion?
Yeah, I think.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Connor,
Second.
second by trustee Poirier, to give,
Credit of 10,003.
yeah, to give credit to 10,030 gallons to Ms. Lynn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Thank you.
Item 3 is just the notice of the spring pickup days of March 8th and March 22nd.
Yeah, so went by one, now a week from Thursday, is our second.
We just finished the one for the 8th today,
The branches.
Right, there was a lot of stuff out there.
and where we dump them, we have to do some policing up because we made a mess of his lot. So, gotta smooth out our tracks and stuff, we packed here.
Item number 4 is correspondence dated April 18th and April 28th, 2003 from Attorney Gabriel Reese, and March 5th, 2003 from Superintendent Sullivan regarding the water problems with John Canada and property.
Looks like it's turning into something. Yeah, that is.
Item 5 is correspondence from Assessor Air regarding the annual reassessment program. Item 6 is correspondence dated April 18th and April 24th from the County Highway Superintendent Lapso regarding stone, sand, and gravel contracts.
No, we do a bit better.
Okay, so we don't use this, all right, so we're not gonna be, we didn't get overcharged then.
Item 7 is approval of our water supply emergency plan for the State of New York Department of Health.
I want to take this time to thank Mr. Sullivan on that emergency plan. I know he worked diligently and very hard at that. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Item 8 is correspondence from New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation regarding funding. Item 9 is correspondence from the New York Rural Water Association informing us of the water circuit rider over the inner area for the month of June.
Now, what will they be doing, just checking things out?
See if we have problems. I don't have any that I know of.
Item 10 is correspondence from New York State DEC regarding water leak and Phase 2 regulations. There's also a memo from Superintendent Sullivan regarding the same.
This can cost this village and every community a lot of money further down the line. Just remember it.
Emergency plan you're talking about?
No, the
Phase 2.
Phase 2 stormwater. Any disturbance of an acre or more, 1 acre or more, requires a permit, special permit from DEC. The way you deal with your stormwater runoff and everything is, has to be designed by a licensed architect or engineer, and it goes on and on and on. I'm not saying it's not good, but
1 acre or more,
1 acre or more,
any property.
any property.
That's effective, that's something new?
It's effective the beginning of March, beginning of April something. The date's on, it's in effect.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Lawson. Any old business to bring up at this time?
Well, it's old business and new business, and I'm not sure. I remember hearing somewhere, whether it was on the radio or where, TV, about funding available to assist in the processing of phosphorus and stuff like that, from runoff,
Mm-hmm.
that goes through, say, your wastewater system, there's money available.
We did that once.
We receive funding. Is this something we can receive more funding for, or?
Once the system's in place, they pay you for putting it in place,
Okay.
or they will cost you. And that was done several years
So
ago.
we have it in place, the system in
Yes.
place, okay.
We jumped on a bandwagon back when we got it from Lake Champlain Basin. 3-4 years ago. That's that little gray building that sits behind the clarifier. And because of that, we used to, our phosphorus in our effluent was about 6 milligrams, probably in the area of 8 or 9 pounds a day. We produce less than a pound a day now. And phosphorus is the key to algae and growth like that.
Any other old business?
But if I find a way of getting some money, I will.
Any new business to come before the board this evening?
Calvin Castine brought in a letter this afternoon regarding a problem he has with the postal department. I don't know if you want to address it tonight or wait for the next meeting. We're probably going to have a chance to read it.
Wow. You want to take the time to read this, or?
Well, I kind of quickly read it, but I don't understand what he wants us to do. Just support him in his endeavors to try and get things straightened out with the
Basically,
postal service. Not just himself, but
apparently there were other complaints and a lot of mail was being returned that didn't used to be.
To his address?
Yeah, apparently the person took the address on the phone book. And that was where the address, and rather than just put it, we wrote on it and forwarded it to the post office, sent it back to the sender.
Well, I don't know about all the few other people who've gotten any of this notices, but we get sometimes a notice from, like an ad, and right across it, the paper is taped, and it says, the people who are sending you this letter should do it properly, and your box number and your regular address should be all identified. Well, if you don't know you're getting it, how are you supposed to address it? Now that's pretty stupid of the postal department to give you something like that. So I took it to him and I asked him, you're asking me to tell these people to identify themselves better when they're addressing me in a letter?
And it's unsolicited mail.
And I said, yes, I don't even know it's coming. How am I supposed to do it? You come up with a solution and I'll do it. And that was the end of that.
Well, I don't know what we can do with the postal service, because the postal service is big. And we ain't nothing, so I don't know what we're gonna do with that. I mean, you know, I can see his concern, but I don't know what he wants from us. You know, we can't make the post office take his mail. Not that I know of.
But I think his issue is that they're not looking out for the local residents. They're more concerned about all the other people from the outside that come in and spend their money. And
That's right. They want this
Well,
stuff.
personal touch and a small community.
so, and I can appreciate that. I know.
Me too.
Maybe there's mail I don't get because it's not addressed properly. How would I know? You know, maybe this just goes back and it goes in Never Never Land. I really don't know. I know, even though when prior to the 911 readdressing of the community or the county when they went through the 911 system. I think they still do send mail to, even though it's not properly addressed, send it to the individual, even though the street address isn't correct. I mean, it's close in most cases. But, you know, if it's a rural box or something like that, I really don't know. You would think they'd know enough to send it directly to the person. I mean, it is a small community, and they know probably most of the people in the area. Certainly probably would be a good community thing that they would take care of and just send knowing that that's the person. But I guess they have their rules too.
I have noticed that a few of the mail carriers have green license plates.
They have what?
Green license plates.
Really?
I've noticed that too.
Yes.
Yeah. We'll stay there a while.
So you lost not only the personal touch on the local, the entire local theme of things.
I don't know what we can do with it. I mean, you know.
Can have a crab about it.
I think, like Albert said earlier, the Postal Service has procedure and policy that has to cover such a large area that I don't think they're intentionally taking it out on Calvin. They're just trying to abide by their procedure and policy, and maybe there's a few new mail carriers and whatever, and if that's the case with their procedure, and they do have new employees, which happens almost every place there's employment, it's pretty hard for them to bend the rules for one individual based on the phone book error. I mean, I do side with Calvin, and I agree with you, Calvin, but,
Right.
you know, I'm sure if this board could do anything in their power, they could, but you're talking about an outfit that covers a large area, and they have to have that procedure, because, like you said earlier, in New York City or something, fine, well, it's the same thing here.
Well, if it's wrong in the phone book, maybe it should be corrected in the phone book.
Exactly.
I think we're the one that shouldn't have got this letter. Okay. The phone company, if they're using the phone book directory for the address, I think it needs to be corrected there. It's not us.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because it says they use the phone book and they get the address out. Well, if it's wrong, we didn't print the phone book. I think this letter needs to go next door. We can't do anything with the post office, not that I know
But
of. I mean, I will be more than happy to go speak to them.
I think the phone company only takes what they have from prior years unless somebody tells them differently. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's like,
Yeah, it could be a typo.
with
too.
me, our last name is spelled wrong in the phone book.
Right.
We've never gone to the phone company and said, well, it's spelled wrong.
A lot of
So it
times,
continues to be wrong.
the letter's sent back to sender, because I get a lot of return mail on some of my billing, and it's because of a wrong number or whatever, and it's so close, and so I can relate to what Calvin's saying.
Yeah.
Is it wrong for them to do that, where I've gotta spend another 30 whatever cents it is? I don't think so. I mean, it was my error, or it was my place to get the information to send that. If the post office did that, exactly, Calvin, like you said earlier in this letter, if it was New York City, well, maybe someday we will be, probably not, doesn't matter. They have a procedure, they gotta go by it.
Yeah.
It's hard for us to change the post office.
Procedure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Will there be anything else under new business? Poor little municipality don't have a chance, I'll tell you that right now. Okay.
I'm sorry. I must have one in there.
Presentation of the warrants, we need to pay the bills.
I just have one bill to add on this evening, if I may. It's the Pitney Bowes. It's for postage in the amount of $100.
Speak of the devil.
No, Pitney Bowes.
Pitney Bowes, huh? Well,
That's a little bit what we're
can I make a motion to add the bill from Pitney Bowes to our warrant this evening?
So moved.
So moved. Trustee Connor, second trustee Poirier, all in favor? Aye. Now could I have a motion to pay the bills, the warrant?
Make that motion.
Motion by trustee Short, seconded by trustee Duffy, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Now, may I get a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So move.
Motion by trustee Burton, second trustee Short, all in favor?